Well, hello everyone. Hopefully everybody's doing great. Beautiful day out here, and it is finally the time to go ahead and start working on this Expedition. I'm going to be putting a torque converter in it, and this is going to be a pretty big job. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If this is your first time doing something like this, you might want to get some help and get some advice before you tear into it. So just so you know, one thing you will have to have, unless you got two buddies that can lift 500 pounds, you need a transmission jack, okay? I only paid like $80 for this. I've had it for a couple years, and it's been a lifesaver, and it will pay for itself the first time you use it. I actually put that little wooden crate on there to kind of keep it from the transmission to sliding around on it, because when you buy it, they only give you like a little metal plate, but I kind of bolted that on. And it works great. Now, also, when you start, get you some red and white paint so you can mark bolts, especially on the drive shaft. Now, what I've done right now, I've got the car kind of up on ramps, and I got a set of chocks in the back, kind of keeping the tires from going anywhere, rolling over anybody or even me. And I have the battery unhooked. And I'm basically ready to start disassembling this. Now, I'm going to do a few things. I'm going to take a few things apart, then I'm going to film and show you what I've done. I'm going to try to keep the video as short and simple as I can, because there's quite a bit to take apart. But once you get a few things apart, it's easy to get into the rest of the things. For example, that brace there, the transmission bracket mount, whatever they call it, it has to basically come off first, because in order to get your front drive shaft off, to get into those bolts, you got all these heat shields and so forth in the way. So once we get this off, I can start getting in here and taking off some of the other smaller stuff. And when you get the smaller stuff off, some of the heat shields and stuff, you can actually get into the bigger stuff that, say, the transmission bolts and the lines and the wires and stuff like that. But what I'm going to do first is go ahead and put my transmission jack up under here and kind of just, I don't know, kind of brace this, let's see, kind of brace up the, this guy here, the transfer case, and that way I can start getting these bolts out and everything. Now, a lot of these bolts on the cross member for the transmission, there's 3 on each side. On this side of the frame, they actually have these little locks, which is kind of nice. And you go on this side, and then you can see your nut up there. There we go. These are all 18. I'm going to put a little grease on it, squirt a little oil on it, kind of loosen them up. And there's 2 on this side of the frame, there and there. And those bolts go through the frame, and they have that lock on the other side. It makes it easier to take them apart. These bolts are going to be pretty easy to get to. The front one on this side, I may have to put a wrench on it, put an extension on the wrench and break it loose. But if I put a little oil on it, it should come loose. Then all I have to do is come over here and break these guys loose and take this bracket out, and then I can start taking a lot of stuff out. Now, I took some paint, and I went ahead and marked the front drive shaft there white. And I did the same thing with this one here in the back of it. It's marked red. And back here in the back, the rear drive shaft, I've already marked it white. So I know where all that goes when I put it back together, and it won't be shaking or out of balance, because this thing runs amazing. It's amazing, an amazing ride, no shakes whatsoever. But if you watch my other 2 videos on this vehicle, the torque converters went out. I don't even have a torque converter yet for it. It's on its way. It's not going to be here for a couple of days. So I decided to go ahead and start tearing this apart now, take my time, do this over a couple of days, and I won't be stressed. And this is what I would probably get, the advice I would give you. If you're going to do this over a period of time. Don't just try to kill yourself, unless you have a couple of buddies that can help you and you think you need to get it done in one day. Then go for it if you have the parts. But I'm waiting for the torque converter to get here. But in the meantime, I'm going to start ripping. Go ahead and start ripping this apart. And I have lots of room out here. No issues to worry about room-wise. I would do it in my little garage, but it's just kind of tight in there. So I'm going to do it out here tonight. Start on it and do this. Let's see, it's about 4 or 5 o'clock now, and I only got about 3 hours of daylight. I'll do what I can today, and we'll hopefully, if it doesn't rain tomorrow, I'll get the rest of it out and separate the transmission. My goal is to separate the transmission from the engine, leave the transmission in, set it on blocks, separate that motor and transmission so I can get in there and take that torque converter out and put a new one in. The seals seem okay, but I'm going to look at the seals while I'm in there. The transmission seal and the rear main seal, make sure there's no major leaks, and if there are any leaks, I'll replace them. Then I'll just simply bolt everything back together, and hopefully it will run just fine. So, with that said, and enough talking, let's let me go ahead and start here, and I'll start disassembling some things, and kind of give you an idea of what it takes to separate this, or even to drop it out if you have to replace your transmission. So bear with me, and here we go. Alright, I got the transmission cross member out. It was pretty easy to do. How I got it was basically, you got these bolts on the side, and you got this bracket. The nut that's on it is a 15. I had to take a wrench on the front bolt, on the front side here, and stick it up like this, because there's not a lot of room. That's the only downside. It took me longer to get these two front bolts out on this cross member on this side and that side, the single bolt, than it did all the other bolts, the other 4 bolts, because there's a lot more room for the other 4 bolts to get in there. I just put a wrench on it and put a secondary wrench like this on it, and kind of did it like this. Some of you guys know what I'm talking about. Stuck it in there like that and broke it loose. And once you get a little grease on there, it comes off. And once I got the other bolts out, they were pretty easy. I used just a regular ratchet, and I used a little socket. Actually, not a little socket. It turns out it's a 18 millimeter socket. If I can find it real quick. And I stuck it on here. I didn't stick it all the way, because if you stick it on there all the way the bolt is on, for instance, sort of like that, you can't get this all the way on there. So I had to kind of like get it halfway on there, and I could stick it up there like this on these back bolts, these two here on the back, this bracket, and I took a little pipe, this little pipe here I got, to give me some leverage, and that's how I got those off. These are a little easier, because you have a little room back here in the back to get, and I just turned it until I got them off. If I couldn't use a deep well's too big, but if I had a deep well that was about half that size, I could probably get on there. But these 3 bolts, there's 3 on this side and 3 on that side on this cross member. Just so you know, the first ones on the front side take a little longer to get out than the rest of them do. And you can see they got these brackets there that hold those bolts inside the frame. And you just push them back like that, out of the way. Push them back, and that cross member will drop out. I've got it supported right now by a little jack underneath the transfer case. And I just pulled those bolts off, nuts, 18. And once I did that, it just fell right down, and right there it is. Now the next thing I'm going to do is take the drive shafts out. There is a mount, a cover on this front one right here. I've already taken it out. There's 2 little bolts. It kind of bolts in there like that. You got to get a little 13 down in there. Let's see if I can see this bolt, find it for you. There we go. Right there. Right there. I think you can see it. It's getting kind of late. I may have to get a little more light. But I use an extension on this side and just kind of took the nuts off, and those nuts are right here. They're just little, actually, you know what? They're probably a 13. Let me just find out. Yeah, I believe they were 13s. They're not very big. They're just sort of small. Oh, let's see here. Yeah, 13. And once you get this little shield out of the way, the protector for the universals, you can just pull it out of the way like that and just kind of set it out of the way. Now I can get to all my bolts here. There's 2 on top. I believe I can still get them, but I have this little heat shield. I don't think it's going to be an issue. I can probably just leave it there. And let's see, the front bolt's already marked and painted, and the rear drive shaft. So I'm going to go ahead and take that out, and we'll just continue from there. And let's see, I know one other thing, the exhaust. You're probably wondering about this exhaust. The exhaust is not going to be an issue, especially on the on the driver's side. It's way out of the way. I mean, it's clear off to the side of the frame, so there's plenty of room here. The passenger side, it's pretty close, but I think I can still get the transmission out. They've got the manifold coming down and the white pipe coming out pretty far on the other side of that transmission. It's not like the O2 Explorers and up. The O2 Explorers, they have that manifold and exhaust coming down underneath the transmission, and it crosses right under it, right here. This one goes way behind it and crosses under the transfer case, and the way it's set up, there's still plenty of room here, so I may be able to drop this transfer case down attached to the transmission, swing it down, and still be able to get to my bolts up on the top of the transmission. But I'm getting ahead of myself, so we'll look at that here in a little bit. But I'll go ahead and start taking some of this other stuff off here, especially the drive shafts. Also, I do have one other suggestion. Now, this bolt here goes on the front of that cross member. This is the one that's hard to get into the nut. You might be able to take a screwdriver and get behind this and pull this out of the hole and straighten this out and turn this whole nut this way and get a wrench on the back of this nut. Something like that to help you break it loose a little easier. But that goes in the frame pretty far. But the two bolts that are easy to get to on the back, well, they're no issue. You can get right into that. So on the front of that cross member, you might be able to get in there and just pull this back out. Take it, put a screwdriver behind it, and tap it with a hammer. That way you can turn the whole bolt and get the nut off that way. But you can do whatever you want. That's probably one way to do it. But there's only two of those to take out, and the other four, like these are easy to get to. Oh, by the way, I almost forgot to tell you, don't forget to take off your little brackets on top of your cross member. There are 13mm bolts you can get on top there. Just kind of take them loose, and they're kind of laying right over there. And I believe they're these guys. Pretty easy to take off. Okay, now we'll go ahead and pop these drive shafts off. Alright, got all the bolts out of the front drive shaft. They're pretty easy. They're all 12mm bolts. They're these little star bits. Well, actually, I should say 7-point bits. And you can see the front drive shaft is pretty much ready to come out. So I'll go ahead and see if I can do this with one hand. Okay, down. There's that. And the bolts in the back. It's getting a little dark. It may be kind of hard to see, but they were pretty easy to get to. Surprisingly, I didn't have to jack my wheel up and turn it or anything. So now this is ready to come out. I'll have to take a little pry bar and kind of help it there a little bit. I guess you can see that. Kind of hard to see. It's getting dark in here. But we'll go ahead and pull this out and get this out of the way. Alright, I'll have to do it with two hands then. Alright, there we go. Had to grab it with both hands. And there it is. It's out. I'll set this off to the side. Check your U-joints. Make sure they're okay. Of course, mine, I've got paint. Oops, I got paint on mine to mark it. And now, we'll go ahead and take out the back one, back there in the back. And it's getting kind of dark, so I need to go back there and we'll pop that rear one out. And that's probably about all we're going to get done today, because it is getting dark. So, by the way, here's a look at the front of the transfer case where that drive shaft was bolted on. And you can see you can get in there. It's a little tight, but you can get a ratchet and a 12mm socket in there. You can actually get all those bolts around that drive shaft once you move this heat shield out of the way. Alright, now we'll crawl back here in the back and get the rear drive shaft unhooked. Getting a little dark, so hopefully you can see that. We'll take this drive shaft out, the rear end, and here are the bolts. They are 12mm bolts. They are these funky, nice little, they got these nice little heads on them. So you gotta use like a 7-point socket on it. It makes it a lot easier to break those loose, which is kind of nice. So now, I think you can see that. We're gonna take this drive shaft out. Now the back of that drive shaft, I took a hammer and kind of tapped on it. Sometimes it comes off easy. Sometimes it doesn't. It depends. You gotta hit. There we go. Alright, that's out. And there that is. Alright, so we'll take it out in the light and look at it real quick. It's kind of like real-time video here, tearing it apart. Alright, and there's the drive shaft, and there's my paint marks. You can see I got all my paint marks on my drive shaft, so everything goes. And I got my red mark on that one. And check your rear seal back there on that housing on the back of that transmission on the, oops, it's back up here, right there. Make sure you check your seal on the back of your transfer case, just so, just in case. So sometimes they do leak a little bit. Mine, it seems like it's going to be okay. So, alright, well, it's getting late here. Looks like we're going to have to kind of wrap things up for today. And we'll get back at it tomorrow. And by the way, here is the transmission bracket, or what a lot of other people call a transmission crossmember. And there are those two bolts I was telling you about. There's little heat shields that bolt on top of this. Sometimes you miss that. You kind of pull this out, get ready to take it down, pull it out. And these are still attached, so don't forget to take those out. Those are little 13 bolts. Alrighty, that's about all we can do today. We'll start back at it again tomorrow. Well, day number 2, and Mother Nature, of course, she has plans of her own. Waiting for the rain to stop. Wasn't supposed to rain that much, but no, it decided to pour. Well, another day and lots of sunshine. Even the birds are happy. Just listen. Alright, I'm also pretty happy my new torque converter came, and we're going to look at it. You're going to see it for the first time just like I am. This is what we're going to be, this is pretty much what we're going to be putting in this transmission. And we're going to take it apart, and I got this, I think it was for $150, been rebuilt out of a company out of Florida. I go on eBay and look at dealers and stuff on there, and eBay's great to buy stuff, not so good to sell stuff, because I tried it one time. I didn't make any money, but I'm no professional. So here we go, we got a bunch of paperwork and side. Here is the torque converter. Ah, very pretty. And it's bigger than I thought it was. Pretty heavy too. Alright, we'll take it out of the box and put it off to the side. Give you a nice look at it here. There she is. That's what we're going to be sticking in the transmission. Back of it. And it's just a 4-bolt. Basically, you got 4 bolts on the back here holding the torque converter into the flywheel. Now, on the Mountaineers, the O2s, and the Ford Explorers with a V6 with the 5R, 55W, and the S transmissions, they have 8 bolts back here. The problem with that is you got to get this special tool, and you got to make sure this torque converter is centered straight on the plate that it bolts on to before you even bolt that onto the back of the flywheel. So yeah, this one here is a lot simpler to deal with. So I think I have some videos online about that 8-bolt torque converter that goes on the Mountaineer, but I'll have to check and see. I lost a lot of videos. I had probably 100 videos to upload over the years, and I lost a lot of stuff when I lost some of my SD cards and stuff, but I may have to redo some more videos down the road. But there's the torque converter, and when you get it, you'll get some paperwork, And you'll probably have to put a little fluid in it, and it looks pretty good down in there. If you can see that or not, probably kind of hard to see if I angle the camera there. And hopefully I'll get this one out probably in the next day or so. I'm gonna do a little more today, and hopefully maybe later tonight or tomorrow we'll have the other torque converter out of the back of the vehicle, and I'll get the new ones put in. That'll be pretty exciting. So it's the weekend. Hey, I'm a little relaxed today, so there's another look at it, and I'll go ahead and start working on the whole car here on the Expedition, and start getting some stuff done to it, and see if we can get her taken care of. But just thought I'd show you guys that torque converter. Now, I think I said I paid $150 free shipping. Got here in 2 days, and like I said, there's several dealers on there, so just pick what you want. And this is a remanufactured, rebuilt one, and I do get a warranty with it. I'll have to check and see what the warranty was. Now I went on ahead now and taken off this bracket, that transmission mount that bolts there, and it turns out one of the bolts, it's got this funky little angle bracket that comes down on the exhaust, and it's broke off there, so I'm gonna have to probably replace that bolt. But there's a good look at it, and it's actually a two-piece deal. This is actually your mount, and there's the brace that it bolts onto. So we'll stick that off to the side. All right, now at this point, I pretty much got a big decision to make. Now, do I want to go in here and separate the transfer case from the back of the transmission, or do I want to leave it all together and separate the transmission from the engine and slide this back on the jack with my engine jack, which is over there, support stand. Stick it under here and slide the whole, basically stick it under here and slide the whole unit back as one unit, or take this transfer case out and just deal with the transmission, because it would be more maneuverable. I wouldn't have to worry about all this weight back here on this transfer case, because it's pretty heavy. So I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and take these bolts out and separate this. And the way this is set up, from the exhaust to this back cross member here, you have these torsion bars that run all the way back up to the front there, and it would be great if I could just take that out. I could just, you know, probably slide everything back, but you got this exhaust kind of in a way, but I can work around it. I can actually drop this transfer case out of there, because there is enough room from this exhaust right here that crosses over back to this other frame. So that's probably what I'm going to go ahead and do. So I'm going to go ahead and take this jack out and let this transfer case come down another inch or two before it hits this exhaust, and that should give me enough room to get up there and get those bolts, which are right there. Trying to hold the camera steady. Which are right here, and there's two up on top that may be a little tight to get into. And I'll stick my jack under here, my transmission jack, and we'll probably just drop this out of there. It looks pretty heavy, so I'll go ahead and do that. I think that's what we're going to do, because if I get rid of this transfer case, then all I have to worry about is this transmission, and it'll make it more maneuverable on that jack stand. I can just kind of slide it back and get in there and get into that torque converter. Or if you have to take this transmission out, you can take this transmission right out in front of this exhaust. So you can drop this transmission out without taking the exhaust, it looks like so far. So let me go ahead and do that, and we're going to take these bolts out, and we'll pull this big old transfer case out. Alright, now I've got all the bolts out of the transfer case. There are these 6 of them. They're 14 millimeter. And I made the mistake of not draining the fluid out of the transmission. I lost about a gallon, not a gallon, maybe 2 quarts. So I'm going to go ahead and catch the rest, but what I need to do now is go ahead and take this pan off and get this fluid out of it. And this transfer case is already come out. You can see it's already moved about an inch. I've got a jack under it, and it should help me slide it out here between the 2 frames. Now, one thing I did notice, this exhaust, if I could get this transmission to swing down another 4 or 5 inches, it would be great. And I can get some swivels up in there, and I can get those 2 bolts on the top of the transmission, which everybody has a issue with. What I noticed is that exhaust right there comes down and it hits on this back frame right about there, if you can see that. It wasn't for this frame, this secondary frame, this exhaust would swing down with this whole engine and transmission, and I could actually probably have a little more room to get up in there and get those 2 bolts on the top of that transmission. But I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm going to go ahead and drain the fluid out of this, and we'll go ahead and pull this transfer case out and figure out what we're going to do next. Alright, now I've got the transfer case off. It slides out pretty good there. You have to kind of get it at an angle. I had it setting on my transmission jack, and once I got it on there, and I lowered it as low as I could, and I just kind of twisted the jack stand, angled it, and slid it off the jack stand and slid it down on the ground. And there it is. And let me give you some advice before you take this out. Make sure your transmission fluid is drained, and make sure you get all the fluid out of your transfer case too, because there's a little nipple. Let me find the nipple that goes on the side of this transfer case right here, and you might want to take it off. It's just a breather tube. Just unscrew this little thing, because it catches on the exhaust right here. It'll hit it, and you don't want to break it. And then when you take this off, there's going to be fluid that comes out of here once you get this transfer case in an angle. So this is why I say go ahead and drain the transfer case. There's plugs on the back. There's 2 plugs right there. One there. And there, well, actually this is the plug. You open that up. Drain all your transmission fluid out, because it'll make your mess a lot less. I kind of got a mess there, but I caught most of it. So I'm going to drag this out here and we'll take a look at it. Alright, there it is. It's out. And may have to put another gasket on. I think I got one in the garage. They're only like $3 or $4 online. And here's the other side of it. And don't forget, when you unhook all your little wires before you yank this out, there's only this one big plug. And when you take these bolts out on the front side here, on the upper 2, there's 2 little brackets that hold the fuel lines. You gotta unhook your oxygen sensors too. There, I'll show you those. Let's see. Well, actually, you know what? Since here we go. There's the back of the transmission. Well, this is the transmission housing, and this is why all the fluid came flying out. I forgot. I thought there was a seal here, but no, this is just the open end unit. But you got you got your oxygen sensor, left bank 1 and bank 2. There's a bracket. There we go. Those little brackets are kind of bolted there, so when you take those bolts out, you can just push this bracket out of the way. Now, actually, since I'm under here, here's a dilemma that everybody has. If I angle myself, if you look up under here, let's see, way back up there, there's those 2 transmission bolts on the top. I don't know if I can get an extension on there or not. I may try it. I really wanted this transmission to angle down more, but like I said, let me spin around here one more time. See how that exhaust is hitting this frame right here? This could probably come off, but if I got this piece of frame out of the way, which is bolted on here, this engine would probably drop down a little bit more. But I think what I'm going to do for now is just go ahead and try to figure out how to get those 2 bolts off on the top of this transmission. And if I can get those off, then everything else is pretty easy, because all the other bolts are on the side here, and you can really get in there with a socket. But I don't know, we'll just keep working down here and see what I got, what I get into. All right, I'll spin around one more time. And there's one more look at it. And there's another look at it with the transfer case out, back of the housing. But like I said, make sure you drain your fluid. If you don't, you'll get a bath. Yeah, on this side, I went ahead and took the splash shield out underneath here. Real easy to do. Just got some clips and got some little 5.5 bolts, millimeter bolts, little tiny things. And there it is. It's off the side because, like I said, I want to get in here and get in there and get that one bolt that's down in there that holds that heat shield on, so I can take that heat shield off, so I have a little more room in there with my hands for those bolts in the transmission. Alright, now what I've done at this point, I went ahead and took my tire off because I wanted to get this heat shield off There is one bolt right there. It's a 10 millimeter, and I got it out, and of course Ford would have to make it about an inch long. They couldn't make it maybe an eighth, but I did get it out, and I had to use a 10 millimeter wrench. And there's a small bolt. Let me go back up under here. That bolt's right about there, and there it is. And there it is. I think you can see it. And now this heat shield is ready to come out right here. The reason I'm going to pull it out is because I want a little more room on this side between this catalytic converter and the transmission to get my hand up in there and the extensions to get those bolts out. So I'm going to put this tire back on before I do any more because I don't want the vehicle to fall on me. And after I do that, I'll pull that heat shield out and we'll go under here and we'll start taking some bolts out of the transmission. Still haven't quite figured out how I'm going to get on top and get that bolt out the top of the transmission, but I think I can still get them if I get an extension back there. But I do have to take the starter off, but what I'm going to have to do now is stop and put all this video together and edit it and start uploading it because it's going to take me 10 hours to upload this video. Yeah, I only have 3 megs. It's amazing. We can send a man to the moon, but we can't upload video at normal speeds. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and end this video. This will be the end of part 1, and we'll start on part 2, and we'll go ahead and start taking transmission bolts out, and we'll see what we can get into. Also, I did go ahead and unhook the gear linkage. It's right here. I just unhooked it from here. I just took the bolt off. I had to take a pipe wrench and kind of hold this in place and put a 15 socket on it, and I took the 2 bolts off right there on the side of the transmission, and I just kind of put it out of the way. And always put your bolts back in your transmission wherever you took them off. That way you can find them. It just makes it a lot easier. So there you go. There's some little wires you got to unhook, so make sure you get your wires unhooked. But we're going to go ahead and start. Well, I think the next thing we'll do is take the starter off. We're going to start taking this transmission out and unbolting the torque converter and all that stuff. So make sure you watch part 2.